What is up, everybody, and welcome to a weekend edition of the All-NBA Show presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook app. Get started with 150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my weekend partner and esteemed colleague, Marc Stein. Marc, how you doing? The playoffs are all set. How are you doing today?
It's been a wild day, man. I think it's going to be a wild Monday, too, in terms of potential changes and stuff, but we know many of the matchups now, and we can dig into your favorite part of the year.
I know. So glad to be done with theoretical basketball. The real basketball begins this week as we get the play-in and, of course, the playoffs into the weekend. So, and we're just going to dive in on this show. We're going to try to look at the storylines in each series. What's interesting about them? What are some of the narratives going in and storylines we're going to be following? I think that'd be a good way to preview it. Just not necessarily about who wins. You know, Legs will be back tomorrow. We'll be doing a show maybe a little bit more X's and O's heavy, but storylines, I think, are what make playoff series so great. So we're going to run through them, and we're going to start in the Eastern Conference, Mark, and we're going to start with Bucks at Pacers. Again, run it back from last year where the Pacers beat the Bucks 4-2 in round one. The Bucks have lost in round one each of the last 2 years. That's the storylines I got. This is a sneaky, this might be, if I look at it, I didn't think about this. It's probably, it's the best rivalry in the first round. This game, or this series, Pacers-Bucks, to me, is the #1 rivalry of the first round of the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, it's what the thing that jumps off the page for me in this series. These teams don't like each other, and 4 or 5 should be the best first round series, but these teams genuinely do not like each other, and that should make for some good playoff theater. Now, obviously, we're going to have to see what the status of Damian Lillard is, because obviously he's just been dealing with this very worrisome and scary blood clot issue. Can they get him back out there? How effective can he really be? We know the Pacers too. I mean, they like to play fast. You know, they like to live up to their name. And since the calendar flipped to 2025, they've been one of the better teams in the league. So I don't think there's any question that this should be the best first round series. I do think Knicks Pistons has a lot of potential too, but this should be good.
Yeah. The Bucks won 3-1 in the regular season. Their lone loss came on March 11th, 115-114, a really close one. So they did own the regular season series, but to your point, the Pacers won last year. It's funny you said that you think this will be the best one. I actually think there's a lot of good first round series. This will definitely be in the mix. But at
you
the
don't
same
have to
time,
agree with you don't have to agree with me.
Well, I mean, I don't. It's not that I disagree. It's just more that I see 2 or 3 of these that I think will be just as good. Here's the thing about this one. I kind of lead Pacers on this one because of, one, they beat them last year. The Damian Lillard factor is obviously huge. And I feel like the Pacers are just the team that's ready for this, of the two, the team that's more ready for this moment. And I think they're going to give Cleveland hell in the second round. But I just kind of lean towards that. And if that happens, you're talking about a rivalry, and anytime things repeat. If the Bucks go down in the first round again, it becomes a 3-year repeat. If they lose to the Pacers again, it's a repeat. To me, I feel like teams, and Milwaukee's one of the teams that's in this situation. Which way do we go? Which way do we break? Losing to the same team and a second year in a row, to me, would maybe throw fuel on the fire of something drastic has to happen.
Well, the Bucks, frankly, have much more riding on this. The Pacers are still early enough in their evolution that, okay, a first-round loss would be a step back after a trip to the conference finals. But, you know, this was only the first full season of Siakam there. Nebhard has had such a great impact meshing with Halliburton, his presence in the backcourt, and what he can do defensively has really made Halliburton's life better. So again, it would be a huge step back and disappointment for Indiana if the Bucks were to win this series, but the Pacers could rebound from that and still have a very bright future. And they've got moves to make, whereas the Bucks took the big swing at the trade deadline to bring Kuzma in. They traded away Chris Middleton, who was a beloved part of their championship team. I can tell you right now, there are, the hope that always bubbles in other front offices about, can we get Giannis out of there? Will he ask out? That talk is already starting to percolate again. So the Bucks have a ton riding on this, and they need a good playoff run. Now, they just got Portis back from suspension, and he's such a huge energy guy for them, and just, he's a big part of their whole setup in Milwaukee. So, I'm a big Bucks fan. I always tend to give this team the benefit of the doubt, even when they haven't earned it. So I think this is going to be a great series, but there's no question if the Bucks lose in the first round, they will be analyzed and dissected the way we're talking about some of these other teams, because their future is very murky if this thing ends in round one.
Or if it just goes ugly in general. Sometimes you have a hard-fought series, could have gone either way. You digest that. But if it just looks like, hey, we were so far away from being the type of team we envision ourselves to be with Giannis still in his prime, that's when the questioning starts to pick up. And I think for Giannis, it's interesting, his arc. Best player in the world sometime around 2021 when they win the title. He's the best player of the world. Jokic kind of takes the mantle, takes the MVP from him. Their teams struggle, injury, some different things happen. And it's almost like he's the same guy, but out of the spotlight in the way it seemed like he was going to be in the spotlight for years to come. Pencil him in, MVP candidate. He's basically been a candidate, but third. And I just wonder, your name is made of deep playoff runs, even just middle playoff runs, and he hasn't been there. So I'm curious to see what Giannis does. He has to do I don't envy him, because I think they are hopeless. Whether it's this round or the next one, they're going to go down, in my opinion. But can he make an inspiring run that just adds to, maybe adds confidence and keeps the ship steady at least a little bit? I don't know. Might just be a losing battle. Any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, my questions are not about him. He's going to give you 30-15 and play his usual elite game. The question is, look, if Dame comes back and is anything resembling the full Damian Lillard playoff effect, it takes on a completely different complexion. I actually liked the Kuzma move for them. I think Kuzma is a very versatile and underrated player who, as the number 3 guy on a team like this, can do a lot of stuff, but we haven't seen it because they've been without Lillard here for the closing stretch of the season. So I find them to be a very interesting and intriguing team, but they won 47 games. They're in the middle of the pack, and that's just it's not acceptable for how much they've invested financially in this group. They have a ton riding on where this thing goes from here.
Last thing on the Pacers, they made a surprise run to the conference finals last year, and it was great. A little bit of a Cinderella run ahead of schedule. But now you kind of have to match that, or at least come close. If you go on to the next round, you got Cleveland, they're the 1 seed, play hard, see what happens. But if you lose in the first round, it feels like taking 2 steps backward, which you never want to do. Growth isn't linear in the NBA, but the Pacers losing in the first round after the conference finals last year, I think that would cause them to question some of their direction as well.
I think it would, but I like their optionality going forward to make stuff happen and respond to it. They are still, again, I think they're still in the early stages of their evolution. They're a team I don't think anybody relishes playing, especially because of the way, stylistically, they play a different game than a lot of teams, but you're not really looking, you got Cleveland and Boston at the top of the East. I don't think we're really expecting Indiana, even in its best case scenario this spring, to unseat one of those teams. So I think it's still a little early in the game for them. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but
Yeah. I like them as a puncher's chance in the next round, but they got to get through this first one. Let's move on to the next one. Pistons at Knicks. Here's the narrative around this one. 14-68 last season for the Pistons. Worst record for a team to make the playoffs the following year in NBA history. And on top of that, it's Cade Cunningham's playoff debut. There's for Detroit. There you go. That's the storyline. This is a great story. Nothing to lose, and a young star making his playoff debut.
They're a tremendous story. They are the story of the season. Unfortunately for the Pistons, there's been so much chaos, trades, coach dismissals, all this stuff that we probably haven't paid the kind of attention to the Pistons that they deserve. But I mean, for Cleveland to fire JB Bickerstaff, Kenny Atkinson to go to Cleveland, the Cavs to start 15-0, but then JB Bickerstaff to have his own coach of the year worthy season in Detroit is one of my favorite storylines of the season. And look, the Pistons are a very proud franchise who really have done nothing for 15-ish years. So to see them on this kind of stage against a glamour team like the Knicks, it's also, Cleveland and Boston in the first round, whoever they end up with out of the play-in, I think it's going to be hard to get too jazzed about that matchup. But Knicks Pistons is right there with Bucks Pacers. I mean, these are very good first round matchups with a lot of layers.
And the Pistons will never be in this position again where you have nothing to lose. You're only in that position when you're a young team, the first year you get into the playoffs. Then it's like, all right, house money. Even if they're a 6 seed next year, if they come back and are a 6 seed, there's going to be expectations of, well, now we got to advance. We got to move a little bit further. So there's something scary about a young team with nothing to lose. You get the mystique of the Garden. And of course, Cade Cunningham has just been so good. I have no doubts that he's going to have a good playoffs because he's been a big game player this entire season. On the other side, though, you got the Knicks, who the storyline for me with them is, are they ready? Because the Brunson injury threw a big curveball at them this season. He came back, looked a little bit up and down, rolled his ankle the other day in the game as well. And so now they haven't been able to establish a great rhythm, and they have huge expectations. It would be catastrophic for them to lose this series. So they have a lot of pressure and a lack of rhythm going into the playoffs.
Yeah, they won 50 games. They've been in the third spot for, pretty much untouched for a while here. But yeah, because Brunson missed so much late in the regular season, there's not the same kind of feel about these Knicks as we saw last spring, when until they started suffering injury after injury, they really had their fans excited and kind of had reclaimed some darlings of New York status. So I think that, look, I had the privilege to watch Brunson from very close range for the first 4 years of his career. I'm a huge fan of the guy, not just because I'm left-handed and I love lefties. I mean, the guy gets better every single year, and he is so tough and so stubborn that even hurt, he's not going to be 100% to start these playoffs, but I think he will still find ways to be his usual effective, crafty self. I think the Knicks experience is going to get them through this round, but I do think it's going to be a great series. And honestly, just to see playoff games in Detroit again is going to be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have this stat memorized like I should, but I know I wrote it at some point during this year. I want to say it's the first time that the Pistons and the Lions have been a playoff team in the same year since 2000. It's been like a quarter century. So, the Lions have become an NFL powerhouse, and the Pistons are finally back playing some meaningful basketball. So it's going to be a fun series.
Real quick one for you. Do you agree with me that there's pressure on the Knicks that a first round failure would maybe bring drastic changes?
No question. Tom Thibodeau will take serious heat and criticism if they lose in this round. If the Knicks win this series, then I think they can go into their next round with a lot less pressure. But yeah, they got to get out of round one, and they will be feeling that, no doubt.
So the next one is the play-in game with the Hawks and the Magic. The Hawks, fourth straight year in the play-in. This is what they do. The East kind of has the same teams in the play-in every year. And the
Yeah.
Magic, here's the storyline for the Magic. They're better than what their record is. They've had a star-crossed season with injuries and not really being able to get healthy with their full complement of players. They're better than what they are. So they need to get into the playoffs and find something out about themselves. They're the team that I think has probably more to lose here. But that's the storyline to me in this series. Both teams kind of in the middle, but the Magic are the team that need to make decisions this summer.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Magic have always moved very, very slowly and conservatively. And for them to do a 3-year, $66 million deal with your guy KCP, that's a splashy move for the Magic. And that move didn't really work out for the Magic. So it's going to be interesting to see this summer just how aggressive they actually are. And I think the playoffs will inform that to some degree, but it's so weird because this team, Orlando, was so gritty early in the season when they had either one or both of their all-world forwards out. And then in the second half of the season, when they had both Banchero and Franz Wagner back, it didn't quite flow the same. So they're a 500 they're a 500 team that won their division. You don't see that every day. But I think that also speaks to, I had really high hopes for the East, at least 1 through 8. I thought the East 1 through 8 was going to be something, but obviously Philly lived through a nightmare. I mean, just Miami had a terrible season, obviously, and dealt with the whole Jimmy Butler saga. So the East wasn't as deep as I thought it was going to be. And that's why, I know we are doing our duty here and going through every single matchup that we have, but I'm far more excited to move on to Western Conference matters, if I'm being honest.
This is Stein saying, man, forget the East play-in, man. I don't care about that.
No,
Which you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
We don't need to forget it, but it's just not as riveting.
Yeah, it's not as riveting. Well, how's this for riveting? Heat at Bulls for the third time in 3 years in the play, and these two teams match up.
Well, we got to. I want to at least mention the Hawks because, Dyson Daniels had just a tremendous season.
Yeah,
becoming both the defensive player of the year and most improved player candidate. They lost Jalen Johnson, who, is right there with Trae Young in terms of who's the most important player on this team, and they fell a little short of 500, but they're you're right. I mean, they've lived in the play-in, and that's certainly frustrating, I think, for Hawks fans after going to the conference finals a few years ago, and it's just been play-in berth after play-in berth ever since. But I also think Trae Young had a pretty good season that didn't get a lot of attention. So let's see if Orlando and Atlanta can give us some Southeast Division spice in the play-in round. Hopefully. He says.
I think they will. And then the Heat Bulls, like I said, these teams have been matching up in the play-in, but the Bulls this time seem to have the upper hand. I mean, to me, this is like the Bulls keep being in this spot, win one game in the play-in, lose the second one, so you don't make it in. They're the team I'm rooting for. I like all the teams, but this is the team I'm rooting for to be the 8th seed, just because I like the run that they're on.
Well, to get real granular for you, this is kind of a joke we've been telling in the DLS offices lately. Is you look at the 5 cities in the All-City Network. PHNX Suns think they had the worst season in the history of the world. DLS Mavs think they endured the worst season in the history of the world. PHLY Sixers, ditto.
Oh, man.
DNVR just witnessed the coach and GM being fired on the same day with 3 games left to go in the season. So it's the CHGO Bulls squad that are just reveling in this Bulls post-trade deadline surge. The Kobe White, Josh Giddey backcourt of the future now. Modest Buzelis just ripping the rim off every game. So, the Bulls... But seriously, that's way inside baseball probably for our audience. This whole thing is about Miami. I mean, Miami we cannot forget here, if Miami does not make the playoffs, which means they have to win 2 play-in games without Jimmy Butler. If Miami doesn't win 2 play-in games, they will keep their pick in this draft, but they are surrendering unprotected firsts in 2 out of the next 3 drafts to OKC and Charlotte.
Oh,
So like Miami, the way how they've looked since the trade deadline, can you see any scenario where the Heat win 2 games this week?
I mean, only because of Spoelstra and they've done it before. But if you're talking about momentum, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, and so they have, and again, these are not issues that really impact the current players on the team, but like
Yeah.
as an organization, as a franchise, like, okay, if they lose, yes, they're in the lottery for Cooper Flag, but they are giving away serious draft capital going forward if they don't make the playoffs this season. So
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in the East, even after I
Yeah.
said some less than kind words about it.
Well, let's go over to the West now, where all of the matchups are compelling, and we'll start in the middle with Clippers at Nuggets. Nuggets the 4 seed, Clippers the 5 seed. This one has no shortage of storylines. So you've got David Adelman at the helm. He's only been there for 3 games. Nuggets have something of a new identity. The Clippers are the hottest team in basketball, which is, I mean, kind of underreported. The Clippers are under the radar in a way that's probably perfect for them. Number 1 on defense, number 2 on offense over the last 15 games. This is Jokic's best season of his career. So we're getting the best Jokic, and Jokic has been a monster in the playoffs, the last 4 playoffs. And then Kawhi Leonard still has it. He's looking like peak Kawhi Leonard, at least in these little pockets. So I think this series is the number 1 series. Maybe I'm just being biased.
Yeah, I can't say it's the number 1 series on my list, but it's a damn good one. I mean, really, in the first round in the West, whoever OKC plays in the 1-8, I think they're winning in 5 or maybe even a sweep. Everything else in the West is going to be cinema, as the kids would say. I mean, the Clippers are a ridiculous story. I mean, they let Paul George go without compensation. How'd that work out? Pretty damn well. I mean, they decided to sign players on short-term deals, focusing on defense. They brought in Jeff Van Gundy as defensive coordinator. Jeff Van Gundy hadn't coached on an NBA bench for almost 20 years. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Jeff Van Gundy, just every move they made has worked. And then you said it. First of all, Zubac has been fantastic. But what you said it, Kawhi Leonard, after all that time he missed in the first half of the season, I mean, just ask the Golden State Warriors. I mean, the Clippers won an incredible game earlier tonight to beat the Warriors and knock the Warriors, into the play. And I mean, Golden State's 23-8 since getting Jimmy Butler. So that was no small feat that the Clippers pulled off. So yeah, I mean, the coaching change looks to have steadied things somewhat with your Nuggets, but that's going to be a great series.
Zubac guards Jokic really well. I don't think most people realize that, because it's not like he's blocking his shots or anything like that. He just forces him into slightly tougher shots than usual. And Jokic makes a lot of tough ones. But in a series, you can't shut down great players. You can only make them take the long route. And Zubac is one of those guys. Jamal Murray coming off of injury. They have the Clippers have a lot of bodies they can throw at him. I mean, he struggled against physicality and length, and they have both of those things. So I think it's a very interesting style fight, and I think it'll be one of the closer series in the first round. If we go on to the next one, Wolves at Lakers. This is the 6-3 matchup with the Lakers taking on the 3 role. Luka and LeBron together in the playoffs. I mean, that's the headline. Those two, what do they have? They looked great. Their best has looked phenomenal over the last month and a half. But now you put it to the test in the playoffs. You put JJ Redick to the test in the playoffs. And then you get Anthony Edwards going up against both of them. This is a marquee, this will be the primetime slot game every single night it's in. And Anthony Edwards is a guy that I think likes the primetime slot. So I think this will be a good series. And it's just the most star power series.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you're not terribly surprised to find out that this is the first round matchup that I am looking forward to the most. Just as much for the disbelief as anything. I mean, you know where I live. I live in a
Yeah.
city that is absolutely heartbroken 2 months after this trade to actually see Luka Doncic in purple and gold in playoff games next to LeBron James. And you said it. I mean, Luka and the Wolves just tangled in the Western Conference Finals last spring. The Lakers are just a really unique team because they've got three elite playmakers when you throw Reeves into the mix. And they're a small team because they don't really have a frontline center, but they're as big a small team as you could probably find because all of their supposed smalls are big and stout and physical. Luka, LeBron, Reeves has size at his position. Rui Hachimura, like they are physical dudes who are quote considered small in modern NBA parlance. So uh, they have home court. They're obviously feeling it with the way they finished the season, but Minnesota is so underrated.
I
Now,
agree.
Minnesota had to go 17-4 just to get the 6th seed in the West. But I'm kind of spoiling the answer because of who we're talking about is they're only see, I can't even do it as a trivia question. I'm just going to state it as fact. There are only 4 teams in the league who are top 10 in offense and defense. Oklahoma City, Cleveland, and Boston, as you would
Yeah.
expect, because those are the 3 60-win teams in the league. Minnesota is the only other team on that list. So
Wow.
for all the talk about they lost their soul when they traded Karl Anthony Towns, they finished in the top 10 in offensive efficiency. Now, how's that going to look in the playoffs? Can they flow offensively in the play? Rudy Gobert is playing the best offensive basketball of his life. Does that continue now against a Laker team that really only has Jackson Hayes to throw at him? And
Yeah.
it's probably gonna annoy people how much focus there is media wise on this series, because I think you're right. It is going to get all the marquee time slots and attention. But I mean, these are some big Luka, LeBron, and Ant. I mean, that's a lot of star wattage.
Yeah. And it'll live up to the hype. I think this will be a very good series. I don't think this will be a blowout. I think there'll be very good games. You know, the Wolves have struggled in the clutch. The Lakers are obviously going to be phenomenal in the clutch with their 2 closers. So this is a game that I think we'll see a lot of really, even if the Wolves are up 6-7 points coming into clutch time, it's just you're gonna be at the edge of your seat every single time. So I think this one will be good. I could see either side winning. And then lastly is our play-in games. We got the Grizzlies at the Warriors. The loser gets, the winner gets Houston, which is not the worst consolation prize for having to come out of the play-in. Houston is inexperienced. I think there's a vulnerability to them. So this game to me seems to have extra importance, not just because it gets you into the playoffs, it avoids a loser go home game in the second play-in, but because the difference between OKC and Houston is immense.
Well, that's the other series, honestly, that I'm really, really excited about. Because I think the Warriors are going to win the play-in game at home.
I think so too.
They're crushed to have, the loss today was damaging, but losing to San Antonio on that Harrison Barnes 3 is what put them in this position.
That's right.
Just like the Nuggets last year with that Friday night loss at San Antonio that messed up their seeding. So I'm sure the Warriors are kicking themselves, but look, you can't discount Memphis because of the talent they have. If they've got Ja and Triple J and Bane out there, you have to respect the talent on the floor, but you can also not. The Grizzlies are 1-14 in their last 15 games against winning teams. Like, it has been a long time since they've looked like the dangerous Grizzlies that we've seen before on the playoff stage that has knocked the Warriors out of a play-in game in the past. Yeah. So I just think the Warriors are going to take care of business. And that 2-7 series Rockets Warriors is going to be so good because it's going to be going to play. It's for the Rockets. It's going to be like going to playoff university because they
Yeah,
really,
that's so true.
even though they've got Van Vliet and they've got Dylan Brooks, like it's going to be an education for them
Yeah.
to have to play a team as experienced as the Warriors. Jimmy Butler's a Houstonian. You know he's going to want to go home and put on a show. And I just look, Steph's playing with a banged up shooting hand. Jimmy Butler took a shot to the thigh today, and the Warriors are small like the Lakers. The
Right.
Rockets should beat them when we compare
I don't know about
rosters
that.
and situations. But I can't pick I can't pick the Rockets. I'm not picking inexperience over experience. I am picking the Warriors to find a way. Sorry, my voice is such a mess, but after this is my third pot of the day, so I think
You've earned it.
I've ruined this voice that was not very good anyway. Um I cannot pick the Rockets to win the series. But if they do, I mean, what a moment it would be for them. What an achievement it would be for them. And it's going to be, I'm as excited about this matchup. And I know I'm skipping the step. I'm telling you the Warriors are beating the Grizzlies in the playing game. But if that's the 2-7 we get, I think it's going to be really good.
I think it'd be good too. And by the way, Houston also goes with that double big lineup that they love with Steven Adams. I mean, it's not just, oh, this team is big, this team is small. They rebound and they use their size. They use it.
Relentlessly.
Yeah.
And the
And that'd be
Clippers
tough for Golden
pounded the
State.
Warriors on the boards tonight.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. From a pure basketball matchup perspective, the Warriors have the bigger team, the more physical team. We saw what Thompson did defensively the last time the Rockets and Warriors crossed paths. You don't see many defenders who can do what he did to Stephen Curry. The Rockets have all the personnel and all the X and O reasons to win this series, but playoff basketball is different. And this Warriors team, just, by adding Jimmy Butler, there's just too much savvy for me to go against them. And if I'm wrong, chapeau to the Rockets, and they grew up before our eyes.
There you go. We got one last game, but before we get to it, if you guys don't mind, make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Tim Legler will be back with me tomorrow. We're late tomorrow, 3:00 Eastern. I believe that's what we said. Yeah, 3:00 Eastern. So we're a little late, but we'll have a 2-day shelf life there, and then we're back Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. So we got great shows for you all week long. Tomorrow it'll be me and Legs. But our last one here, Mark, Mavs at Kings. This is the one, of course. I assume this is at Kings. So Mavs at Kings. The big question here, can AD carry them to 2 wins? Because the Mavs desperately, in my opinion, could use a little win. Just a little, get into the playoffs, have a nice little run here. And it's like Anthony Davis's first test in Dallas to try to do something heroic.
I think the win they'd rather have is on the draft lottery day in mid-May.
Really? Don't tell me this.
But I also have a sneaky feeling that even after all the chaos, turmoil, anguish, and heartbreak in the city in which I reside, I think the Mavs can certainly win a game in Sacramento because they have a lot of size, and that's what Sacramento doesn't want to see. So I do think the Mavs can find a way to win that game. And then if the scenario plays out the way I've been projecting it, they'd be at Memphis to see who plays Oklahoma City in round 1. And again, Memphis, it's just been so long since we've seen the Grizz beat a good team that I think I mean, it's not inconceivable that the Mavs find a way to win 2 games this week. But saying all that, like, they are so thin in the backcourt. They just welcomed Dante Exum back from what they initially thought was a season-ending hand injury. Brandon Williams, who they had to convert from a 2-way to a standard NBA contract, again, because they are so short in a backcourt with no Kyrie Irving. Brandon Williams got hurt in the season-ending loss at Memphis today. We don't know yet how serious that injury is. I think we'll find out more Monday. And Spencer Dinwiddie, who was basically the last player signed to this roster as an emergency guard to fill in for when Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving were going to, they were anticipating that each of those guys missed 10 games or so. Spencer Dinwiddie ended up leading the Dallas Mavericks in minutes this season and assists and several more categories that Bobby Carella mentioned. Bobby Carella mentioned it on DLS. I don't even remember them all. That was not the plan for Spencer Dinwiddie to lead the Mavericks in minutes. So can Sacramento, now Sacramento's not going to have Malik Monk in this 9-10 game. So can the Kings take advantage of the Mavs backcourt situation? And it's going to be a lot happening in the mid-range in that 9-10 game. What can Levine and DeRozan do? Can they carry the Kings to a win at home?
What's your prediction for that one? I mean, you're close to it. Do you think the Mavs get the win?
I do think, because if the Mavs have their full complement of bigs, I do think they go there and win. Because again, I think Sacramento has had trouble with size all season. And, you said it as well. Anthony Davis, he has had to hear a lot of negativity that I'm sure hasn't been fun for him. On Friday night against Toronto, he nearly uncorked a quadruple double. There have only been 4 recorded quadruple doubles in NBA history because of course, block shots were not recorded in the era when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell played. But AD was looking quite confident and buoyant after that performance. And you said it, and I think there is something to that. He wants to make as loud a possible statement as he can. And if he can drag a banged up Mavs roster, even if just to get to a 1-8 first round matchup with OKC, that would be something.
Well, there you go. Cue that outro music for us, James. That does it. Just shaping the narratives and storylines around now that we have it set in stone. The nice thing is, on tomorrow's show, we're going to go over a little bit more of the X's and O's, the matchups, and get Legs' perspective on all of these matchups as we follow along the play-in this week and ultimately the playoffs. Mark, I appreciate you doing the Lord's work, and now you have a play-in game to cover here later this week at DLLS.
Coach Legler and his GM, Adam Mata, as you guys are going to break it down.
What'd you think about that? Not bad, right? That's pretty good.
I would not be sad if Legs ended up as a coach, and if you end up as a GM, I expect many leaked stories from you. So please make it happen. Please make it happen.
That's exactly right. Everybody, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button as well. We'll see you tomorrow.
All silly like the mayor.